welcome to the Neuro Show, a show all about brain injury and breaking the barriers. And Happy New Year, it's 2016. I hope you all had a good holiday. Today we're going to be talking about New Year's resolutions and goal setting. And we're here with occupational therapist Arvinder Gaya, Director of Personal Injury Occupational Therapy. And also thanks to our sponsors, Oatley Vigman Personal Injury Lawyers. And hi Arvinder, welcome to the show. Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, it was a nice holiday. Spent a lot of time with family, and you know, I like being around the city in the holidays.
Did you get much time off?
Well, I was working a bit, but I did get some time off because generally everybody's off, so it allows us to take some time off.
Yeah, I planned to have a whole week off. I got Christmas Day off.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, and New Year's, so you know, it wasn't that bad, but. Anyways, so we're talking about goal setting and New Year's resolutions. Do you have a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I do. My New Year's resolution is to have more fun this year.
Okay.
And I got to thinking about what does that mean for me, so I just set one small goal, which was to dance every day with my children after school.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, so let's talk a bit about what goal setting is, first of all.
Sure, yeah.
And why it's important.
Well, goal setting is important because it allows people to direct what course they want their life to go in, or at least you get to decide where you want to go rather than allow just whatever is coming to come. So, yeah, so that's why I would say that goal setting is important.
Yeah, one quote I really like is, a goal is a goal without a plan is simply a wish. And in order to, if you have goals and if you want to achieve certain things in your life, putting a plan in place is very important. And setting those goals and making steps to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a New Year's resolution, Sarah?
Okay, I do. Mine's pretty much the same as yours, to have fun, enjoy my life more. I've spent the last few years really working hard and focusing on work, and anytime that I had extra time, I thought, should I do something that's fun or should I be working? And I chose the work. So now I'm at a place where I really feel like I need to enjoy life more.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So that's my plan for this year.
Yeah. So I guess how would you do that? Like, what are you going to do to make sure that you're accomplishing your goal?
I don't know. Well, I have some ideas of what I enjoy out of life. I've been thinking about this since November.
Yeah.
And, you know, certain things that I like are the outdoors, animals. I want to do the hobbies I used to do. I enjoy reading or, you know, art, going to the museum, that type of thing. So those are the type of things I want to do a little bit more of. But what's a good place to start with goal setting?
Well, I think the first thing is to, I guess, identify like what generally you want, right? Like, just like you're saying, you want to have more fun, and you know what are the hobbies that you used to enjoy. But I think to make those goals more achievable, it's probably good to narrow them down to smaller goals, to things that you can actually see yourself doing. And that way, like, even if you've set a huge goal, you still feel like you're moving towards it if you can achieve the smaller things, so setting it up in smaller steps.
Okay, so for New Year's resolutions, obviously you set the goal for the year, right?
Yep.
So, but what about other goals in rehab? So because we're a show based on brain injury rehab.
Yes.
And goal setting is very important for rehab.
Absolutely.
So how often should people be setting their rehab goals? And is this the same as life in general goals, or are these separate goals?
I think they should be the same as life in general goal. I guess the difference between rehab is, like, the people that we're treating have gone through some kind of an injury, so they're working on getting better from that place. But in general, I think when people set goals, the same principles would apply. Like, they probably should look at their goals every single day. They should write them down, and they should maybe even put them up somewhere where they see them every day. And then I would say, like, they evaluate them, you know, periodically. Like, every few months you go back and say, okay, am I on track to achieve this goal? And what am I doing towards achieving that goal? And that's exactly what we do with rehab. The difference is that I guess in rehab you have a therapist that's working with you, or you have somebody that's working with you, so they typically will cue you to set goals and also evaluate if those goals are being achieved. Whereas, you know, I guess people who are not in rehab, they're setting their own goals, and then they have to figure out how are they going to make sure that those goals get achieved.
Okay. So in the past, when I really started developing my businesses, right, because I do the magazine Neuro Connect, and also have a coordinate personal support workers.
Yes.
Right? So I went through this phase where I really enjoyed reading like Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, and I learned a lot about goal setting, and it's so important.
It's so important.
If you actually want to achieve something.
Yes.
And so one of the things I learned from, I think it was Zig Ziglar, was that he said goals are like showers. We have to renew them daily.
Right.
So I think some of these people suggest, you know, looking at your goals in the morning each day before you get started, or even reviewing them at nighttime in the evening, and, you know, tweaking them as needed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you do that, what happens is it keeps it in the front of your mind, right? So you don't forget about them. So that way, as long as you keep them in the front of your mind, you're kind of during the day always looking for ways that you can, things that you can do during the day to achieve those or to work towards those goals. Whereas if you just write them once and you put them away, then life gets in the way, you forget about what the goals were, and when you look back, you know, some people will do that at the beginning of the year and they'll just put them away and not look at them, and then at the end of the year they'll look and go, I forgot that I wanted to do that, or I want to do this. So I think looking at them frequently is really important if you want to achieve them.
Yeah. It's just like I noticed this month. I don't know if you noticed, because I know you go to the gym.
Yes.
And it's much busier in January.
Yes, it is. Everyone's setting the goal to lose weight.
And then what happens? Like by the end of January, it trickles off.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because people are trying to set up a new habit, and then by the end of January, they get back into their old ways, and you know,
they're not. They need to review the goals daily to maintain motivation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
And I really think it's really important to make the goals smaller, to make them achievable. Because if you set something really big, sometimes you're so overwhelmed by that goal that you give up on it too.
Okay.
You know? So if you kind of set something that you feel, yeah, I can see, or how can I make this happen like every day, or work towards it every day in a way that's realistic, and I can do it within the capacity that I have, the time I have, the, you know, I guess, yeah, their own capacity, then they're more likely to achieve that goal.
Which brings us around to, I think, the law of attraction.
Yes.
Which is, can you review that for us?
Well, the law of attraction basically says that if there's something that you want and you can focus on it, if you focus on it and you feel actually what it feels like to have accomplished or be that thing. So for example, if the goal is like for myself to have more fun, I had to really break that down and go, okay, what would be one thing I can do to make sure that I bring that into my life every single day? That's why I came up with the smaller goal of dancing with my kids every day, because I can actually see myself doing that. And so now, so the other part of the law of attraction is to visualize what the end result looks like. So when you set a goal, to actually visualize what would it look like for yourself to have achieved that goal? What would you actually visually look like? So you can start to imagine what you would look like, what you would feel like, and when you generate those visualizations and you stay in that, when you create them in your mind, then you actually start feeling like, how would I feel if I accomplish that goal? So the law of attraction just says that when you want something and you continue to hold that in your mind, and you get into the feeling state of feeling what that would be like, then that thing is drawn to you as well. And the law of attraction really talks about, like, on an energy standpoint, when you're trying to attract something and you feel like you're already in that state, you're actually getting to a vibration that attracts that same thing to you.
Yeah. And you know, when I first started reading about it, I was maybe a little bit critical about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
But it's like what you think about is what happens, or what you become.
What you bring about. Yeah.
Because you're just putting your kind of energy into it. If you're reviewing your goals on a daily basis, you're thinking about that. You're taking little steps, even mentally, to achieve those goals, and then it becomes part of reality. It actualizes, right?
You know, my husband was just telling me a quote the other day about, he was reading a book, I think it's called The Man Thinketh. I think that's what the book is called. But in there's a quote that talks about you're not what you think about, but what you are. Like, it's not what you want, it's what you are that actually shows up in your life. So what you are means that you're actually existing in that way of being. And that for me is really like, if you imagine that you achieve this goal, how would you feel and how would it look like for yourself? And the more you can stay that way in your mind, the more likely you're going to achieve it. And I thought that was really good, because sometimes people think about it, they might just think about it in their head, but they don't actually feel what it would be feeling like. And it's the feeling state that really sends out those vibrations to attract what it is that you want.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to be taking a break, and when we come back, I think we'll talk about more about goal setting and taking the steps to achieve goals.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you want to interact with us a little bit more, you can follow us on Twitter at TheNeuroShow, and also follow us on Facebook. Join the conversation on the NeuroConnect Facebook page, and email me also info@neuroconnect.ca. So again, thanks to our sponsors, Oli Vigman Personal Injury Lawyers, and we'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Paul Rosen. He's Kerry Goulet, talking sports with Rosie and the Gooch. I want you to remember that this is a channel by and for people with a disability. Everybody out there, watch this show, Talking Sports, Rosie and the Gooch. See you soon.
Hi, and welcome back to the Neuro Show, a show all about brain injury and breaking the barriers. And it's the beginning of 2016, a new year, so we're getting motivated and making some goals for the year, and really learning about appropriate goal setting and maintaining motivation and achieving our goals. And we're here with Arvinder Gaya from Personal Injury Occupational Therapy. So thanks again for joining us. Okay, so back to the goal setting. Let's maybe review what our goals are for this year and see how everyone can kind of interact with us to implement it at home.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So both our goals are pretty much the same, right?
Yeah,
To have more fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so what's our first step here then?
So I guess the first step is identifying how are you going to do that every day.
Okay. So yours is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, well, that's because I narrowed it down to the one thing. But, you know, I'd like to do more than that thing. It's just I'm trying to set myself up for success. So I just made it smaller because I felt like if I just say I'm going to have more fun, because I've been saying that to myself for a few years, because similar to you, I've been working a lot. It still doesn't happen. So I feel like if I just start with one thing and just say, okay, if I can just do that every day, then I can build on top of it, right? And I could set the next thing and the next thing, and then hopefully I start to just do more.
So how do you find the balance between it being too small and being too much?
I think if I'm really overwhelmed with it, if I feel nervous and like it's not really going to happen and I don't believe in it, chances are it's not going to happen.
So you can always go back, like
of course you can.
Yeah, a month from now and add more to it, right?
Absolutely, and that's my intention. My intention is to add more to it. But for now, I just thought if I put too many things on there, then chances are I'm probably not going to do anything. So that's why for me, I'm just trying to say if I narrow it down to one thing, and even if it's like 10 minutes a day, that can get me in that mode, and hopefully that's going to transfer to me doing other things too, because I'm just, you know, more in that mode of being playful and having fun. And so that's kind of where I'm going with it. But I mean, definitely you could set up a few things. Like you could say, you know, like your goal, for example, to put more leisure things in your life. I mean, I know you were saying that you enjoy the outdoors and you also enjoy animals and you enjoy going out with friends. So you could set a few things, right? You could say, okay, I'm definitely going to go out on a social, like fun thing, you know, every other week. And then I'm going to definitely do one hike a month. Or you could do a few things, right? And then try to just work towards those.
Yeah. Well, I think I
can do better. But I guess you just have to feel it out yourself, right?
Yeah, no. Well, okay, this is how I did it. So I set my goal, which is the general goal of I want to enjoy my life more. So then I started thinking about what are the things I used to enjoy
Right.
that I still want to do. And so outdoors is probably the thing I like the most, right? So I'm thinking, well, I did a good job this summer going on hikes frequently. So I live very close to a nice trail, so I can do that pretty frequently. But then I decided, okay, so I'm going on a trip to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that's great.
To see something different, a hiking trip. And then I'm going to put another trip in next winter. It's kind of twofold. One, to spend time outdoors, but two, like, I want to see, I believe in global warming. Right? I want to see these things before the world changes quickly. So I'd like to go to the Arctic, maybe, spend some time, try to find some polar bears before they all starve to death. Sorry to sound morbid. But anyways. And then, I don't know. Where do I go from here, Arvinder?
I think you have to have a plan. Like, you've got to set it up in your life. So when are you going to do it? Right? Like, when are you going to go on hikes? It can't be the icing on the cake. It's got to be the thing. I think in our society, a lot of people, especially with the goals that we have, which is enjoy our life more, people think that enjoying or the fun part of life is just the icing on the cake. You got to do everything else first. And if you have time, then you can enjoy yourself. But I think if your goal is to enjoy yourself, then you've got to make that something that you build into your life, right?
You got to
schedule it in. Yeah, if it's not natural for you, I think you got to initially schedule it in until it becomes more natural.
And then it becomes a habit.
Yeah, so maybe you say every Friday afternoon I'm going to go on my hike, right? So like you set it up as an appointment in your calendar. And I think for people like us, because we're very similar, A-type personalities, if it's an appointment, it's very likely to be done, right?
Yeah.
And then you also set aside that time that if anybody's calling, you're going to say, you know what, I'm sorry I can't do it during this time because you've set aside that time. Whereas if you don't set that time aside, I think what happens is other things come up and then you think they're more important because you're making them more important.
Okay, so you got to prioritize here.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, so what about for people who are going through rehab? From either brain injury or other types of injury, their rehab is pretty much their full-time job a lot of the time.
It is, absolutely.
So as an occupational therapist, when you're setting goals with them, do you take into account other recreational goals or?
Absolutely. I mean, occupational therapy is about what the person does, and we look at, their personal care. We look at their productivity, which could be things they do for work or volunteering, and we also look at leisure. So we definitely would look at what were the things that they enjoyed. Sometimes that's not the first thing we look at because people have so many injuries that they're just trying to get back to taking care of themselves, right? So it's not always the first thing we go to, but eventually on the rehab path that is something that we look at, and we try to help them to find ways that they can incorporate leisure.
Okay, so where do you think that a big point of struggling is when goal setting for people with these types of injuries? I mean, I find some people are either not very motivated, seemingly, or they want to take on things that might not be achievable right now, and then they get discouraged that it's not a realistic short-term goal.
I think with rehab it's hard because people did not expect this injury to happen, right? It happened to them all of a sudden and their life just turns upside down. And then also, if there is a brain injury, there's also cognitive issues, right? So that means they have trouble with thinking, they may have trouble with planning, they might have trouble even goal setting. So that's where the therapist and the rehab team come in place, because they can help them to do that. So they can help them to, if the person says, okay, well, I just want to be able to go back to work. And we know, like, based on what their injury is like, it might be that they don't really understand the extent of their injury. So we could say to them, well, you know what, we know that right now, because you just got injured, you need some time to heal. But that's something we can think about, maybe in a few months. So for now, what are the things we could do towards, like, based on what you're able to do now, what are the things we could do towards going back to work. So it could be that that person is not even like in a routine. And usually when you go to work, you have to be in some kind of routine, right? You get up, you get dressed, you have breakfast, you have to get your stuff together for work, you have to be able to get up at a certain time if you're starting work at 9 o'clock. So we start to work at that place. So we say, okay, if you're going to go back to work, then you need to be able to get up at the same time every day. You need to be able to get yourself ready and dressed and take care of yourself, and then get, you know, out of the house by a certain time. So at the beginning, it might be that we look at how can we get them in an activity where they get out of the house at that certain time, so they could just practice that morning routine. And then once they have that down, then we can start to work and then we can show them that this is working towards, because you have to be able to do all these things to go to work. So we help to break their goal down into smaller steps that are more achievable for them.
Okay. And then how do you measure their success?
Well, we measure it by looking at how many times have they done that, based on what they tell us, also the family, based on our observations. You know, like in terms of the morning routine, it's like, is it actually happening? Usually in those cases, we have like a personal support worker or rehab therapist that's in there to help the person initially on the steps that they can't do, or to actually coach them on or cue them just to remember to do certain steps. So then they can keep track of, okay, is the person doing it, and where are they having trouble? And then we can target those things so that we can work towards achieving that whole thing. So we can tell the person then that, look, you're doing this really well. You're getting up every single day at 9 o'clock. So that part you've already accomplished, right? So.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and thanks again, Arvinder, for joining us from Personal Injury Occupational Therapy. She's an occupational therapist that helps people with brain injury and other injury achieve the functional goals, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That they want to achieve. And thanks again to our sponsors, Ole Vigman Personal Injury Lawyers, and we'll be back after this break.
Hi, I'm Tylene Duggan, founder of Youth Day. We are so pleased to be part of the Disability Channel to show and showcase the positive achievements and abilities. Please help support this wonderful new venue.
Hi, and welcome back to the Neuro Show. Today we were spending time with Arvinder Gaya from Personal Injury Occupational Therapy, talking about goal setting and New Year's resolutions, particularly for people going through brain injury rehabilitation. If you want to find out more information about Arvinder, you can visit her website, www.piot.ca, and or email her arvinder.gaya@piot.ca. It'll be on the screen too there. Arvinder, do you have Twitter? No, okay. Anyways, you can also follow us on Twitter at The Neuro Show, visit our website, neuroconnect.ca, and join in the conversation on the NeuroConnect Facebook page, where we're going to be talking about brain injury. We've got some information about goal setting and all sorts of things. Our next show will be about relationships, so we have some conversations going on there about that. And thanks again to our sponsor, Ole Vigman Personal Injury Lawyers. And we're here. We hope you enjoy their new studio.
Yeah.
We're at Bay and Dundas,
nice.
I think Bay and Dundas in Toronto. Yeah. Anyways, and that's it. And thanks for watching the Neuro Show, and we hope to see you next time.